Joel is just so cute. I love Joel.
I'm a big Joel fan. Canada loves you. Your house guests love you. You did a great job.
It's okay to be a little weird because we all have our weird quirks and stuff. And
Joel is the best. Joel, you're the winner, and I will shout loudest, don't you worry.
Joel's a really smart guy.
Let's hear it, please, for Joel.
What's up, everybody? Joel here with another edition of Random Thoughts. It's week 4 in the Big Brother Canada house. Things are heating up, and we've got a very special guest to break it all down. We're going to break down his game along with some of the dynamics going on right now in the BB Can 6 house. So let's welcome Jesse Larson. Jesse, how's it going?
Hey, Joel. I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely, man. It's a real pleasure. I'm bummed that I'm talking to you this early. I looked at you when I saw all the cast members, and I said to myself, like, this guy is going to be a huge physical force. Obviously, you can't hide the presence that you have with that, but I didn't personally see a lot of things wrong with your game through the first few weeks. I want to go back to when Hamza is HOH and Hamza nominates you for eviction. Looking back on it now, I don't know how much you've looked back and watched that, but do you think in retrospect there was anything that you could have done or something that you can pinpoint that you were like, man, if I would have done this, maybe Hamza wouldn't have nominated me? Is there a particular moment?
I'm honestly not sure. I was completely blindsided by the nomination. Maybe the one thing I could have not done is build a little alliance with him and Derek while we're in the catacombs. I'm thinking that he thought at that time we were on the same side, and he honestly wanted to stack the veto. So maybe if we hadn't done that, he would have put someone else up. I'm not sure.
I want to go back a little bit to when it was the decision the week before. Obviously, it's easy to sort of be the Monday morning quarterback in a situation like this. And I know a lot of fans will look back and be like, oh, well, obviously they should have evicted Hamza because then Hamza became HOH. You can't actually know any of that. But at the same time, a lot of people had been talking about the unpredictability of Hamza in the house. From your perspective, with your real deal alliances, some of the people you were in good with, was there ever a consideration that Hamza would be evicted in week 2?
You know, people were talking about it, but at that time, Hamza didn't really show any major unpredictability that concerned any of us, right? So people just wanted to go with what the house wanted. Andrew annoyed a lot of people, and Andrew was the easy choice. So, you know, having seen episodes now and seen some of the DR talk that Hamza was doing the whole season, maybe knowing that we would have, you know, done something about it, but we didn't think it was needed at the time.
You mentioned your deal with Derek. You mentioned Hamza as well. We did see a conversation with yourself talking to Hamza and Will about you guys, along with Derek, forming a 4, that you guys would be an unstoppable force. How real was that alliance in your mind? Was that a way more so to just like get him to not nominate you, or were you actually like really legit and wanting to honor that?
Yeah, so I mean, this was coming off a week in the catacombs with myself, Hamza, and Derek. So we actually did bond over that week. So this was pre-HOH. We thought, hey, Hamza doesn't really have anyone in the house right now. It might be a good chance to go up to him, make a little 3Z or 4Z deal alongside Will, and then see what we can do, you know, in the coming weeks. So it was more of a safety move and not as officialized as it could have been, but
we saw you after you got nominated. We saw like a brief little snippet on the show about Derek giving you sort of a heads up that you were going to be nominated. How much did that catch you off guard?
So Hamza was called into the diary room, and I passed him alongside the stairs, and he said, "Do you trust me?" And I said, "What? Am I being nominated?" Like immediately, you know, the vibes were off. So he went into the diary room. He said, "Go talk to Derek." I found him, got the rundown. So I honestly had a 30-second heads up, and it was pretty shocking.
even with that, Hamza was really almost over the top reassuring you. When was the point? I mean, did you believe him all the way up through the veto that he was going to pull you off? And did that cause you at all to maybe like hang back a little bit in the veto, knowing that you have somebody who's telling you at least that he's going to pull you off?
Yeah, I think if it wasn't for the $5,000 in the Wendy's challenge, that he legitimately would have thrown it to me. You know, with the money there, obviously everyone's going to go at it. So I did believe him up until that point because I didn't have a reason not to.
So what point did you finally decide that, okay, I got to break off from Hamza, this guy is totally gunning for me? And where was that switch that you were like, all right, I've got to like call this guy out and sort of draw the lines between me and him?
Absolutely. It was the morning of what would have been the veto ceremony. So I needed to actually find out if Hamza was going to use it or not. And after one talk with him that day, you know, I felt like nominations were going to be the same. So it's like, okay, it's go time now. Better think of a speech.
Why did you decide to do it right there in front of every single person to sort of openly declare war like that?
I thought for me, it was a splitting the difference scenario. So we could have the veto ceremony and I do nothing. We could have where I said a speech like I did, or we could have one where I go full savage. You know, I'm coming after you, like nothing's gonna stop me, like like go way worse, right? So I thought splitting the difference was the safest bet for me. It was staking a claim that this guy can't be trusted. It was pointing stuff out in, you know, a professional manner without losing my stuff completely. And it was better than not saying anything, I think.
Yeah, I thought instantly, I mean, I had total Godfrey vibes when that first went up, and I was like, this is a great situation. You're obviously somebody who I think you probably would have known later on in the game, just because of your physical strength, that people would look at you and be sort of threatened by you. And so, like, openly declaring that, if I'm a house guest in the house, I'm thinking, well, you know, that's great. That leaves me a bit of a buffer that these two guys are going to attack each other. Was that sort of the idea you were trying to get at that point when you knew you were going to be sitting on the block?
Absolutely. Like, people like keeping big threats in the game, especially if two people are going to go at it. I mean, that just might bide you a couple of weeks, right? So that's definitely part of it. The other half was just letting people know that Hamza can't be trusted. You know, he went back on his word multiple times. So I thought I accomplished both those things.
The other thing that was mentioned on the show was you had a conversation with Hamza in the HOH room about that you would be willing to sacrifice Derek and Kayla potentially if you were head of household. Why make that sort of a sacrifice? Was that just kind of to maybe an insurance policy to get a few extra votes from some other sides?
Yeah, so, you know, later in the week, it turned out that Hamza had more power and influence over a couple people than initially thought. So to gain those votes, I needed to gain Hamza's vote. And the one thing to, you know, play with Hamza's ego is making those big moves, right? So I was basically saying, guys, voting me out isn't the biggest move here. Let me help you vote Dela out, you know? And I think after that pitch, he was really on board to actually keeping me that week. But there's a couple other people at play there that weren't so hot about the idea.
Yeah, for sure. The other side of things, you made a very good point on the fact that you were, you know, you can't, like I've said a few times, you can't hide who you are. So there was going to become a point, I think, where you were going to be a big target. The opposite side of that was you're going up against Olivia, who's somebody who was fairly quiet for the most part. Everybody is like, first off, super threatened for the fact that she runs marathons. That was like the defining thing on what makes somebody a threat, which is a little bit crazy to me, but people have their own sort of reasoning for why people are threats. Do you think it ever occurred to other people in there that, like, look, you can be somebody who can be nominated and will always sort of be a shield, whereas Olivia can slip through the cracks?
Absolutely, that's part of the pitch too. I mean, Olivia, I said, wouldn't be targeted if it wasn't for this week. She's going to slide to the end. She might even rally, you know, a couple of the girls together. So, you know, we need to address this now. And I was a physical threat on the block there, but I statistically had the worst comp record of anyone in the house at that point, ironically, right? So I was trying to use that to my advantage as well.
Yeah. How bad do you think it hurts your guys' alliance, the real deal, the fact that you're out of the house?
I think that's completely thrown aside now. I mean, Kayla's playing her own game for Kayla. I'm not sure if those three will stick together moving forward here, but it's not looking good.
We also saw you bond really closely with Paris. It seemed like early on they were painting it to be a showmance, and then they kind of took away from that, and it focused more so on Derek and Kayla. What are your thoughts on Paris as a game player, and were you upset that she didn't throw a vote your way?
My thoughts on Paris is she's a great girl from a gameplay standpoint. She was beneficial to our alliance because she was sort of playing both sides of the house, and I really felt like she was loyal to me over or anyone else in the house, like Will or Maddie, for example. So some of the information she brought back was super useful. You know, she does get a little paranoid at times, and I was hopefully there to balance some of that out. So I'm not sure what's going to happen moving on, but she needs to lock something solid down.
Well, speaking of paranoia, we get to your eviction, and then we get this rogue vote. Veronica goes rogue, throws away her vote, decides to vote to keep you in order to create a lot of chaos. What do you make of Veronica's move to do this when essentially she seemed like, to me, even though she was the gate crasher and came in late with Marin, she seemed like she was in an okay spot, but I feel like she just continuously is digging and digging her own grave. What do you make of her rogue vote?
So...
She didn't tell you that she was doing that, did she?
She did say she was going to give me her vote, but to not tell anyone, and I did tell a couple people because, you know, that was one vote I could count on. You know, we only need 5 more at that point, right? So it was looking super up for me if Dayla, Paris, and Maddie went on board, and then, you know, get an Erica or someone for me to stay. But no one believed that she would actually throw me her vote. But me and V bonded really well as people. Like, I think she's awesome. So she said, no matter what happens, like, trust me, I'm giving you my vote. So when I saw there was 2 back, I asked Kayla quick. She didn't vote, so I knew it had to be V. I'm not sure if that's good for a game or not, but I appreciate the vote.
So did that spark, we saw at you fighting till the bitter end, you closing that door saying, I am woke, guys, this is it, here we go. Did that, Veronica telling you that, kind of spark you and bring you to life, or was that something you had planned all along?
It was probably 20 minutes, or 10 or less, I guess, to the ceremony. And once I clued in that, you know, we have Veronica, Will, Hamza, and Marin in a tight 4 with Ryan, like as a 5, I had to let these people know, you know, I didn't know Johnny's involvement at the time. So I got 6 people in a room. I said, hey guys, we got the votes here. Let's do it. Or else you're going to be picked off if you don't align, right? Because there's a lot of people acting as individuals right now in the game. So that was the pitch.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, how would you rate Veronica's twerks?
Veronica's twerks?
Yes.
I'd say a 6. I haven't really seen the twerks from Veronica. Kayla has the best twerk, that being a 10.
A 10? Wow, that's...
Yeah, she can twerk.
I'm excited because that's all. I had a conversation with Dre last week about the twerking, because that's one of the things that she was big on, and I think we're going to be getting some good twerk offs coming up in Niagara Falls. So I'm really excited, not only to meet everybody around there from the BB Can crew, but the twerk offs is going to be something exciting as well. So let's get back to the rogue vote for Veronica. How well, and I'm being really sarcastic when I'm saying this, but how well did Veronica sell the fact that there was a rogue vote and that it wasn't her? She's getting all in everybody's face. She's saying things, let me quote some of the things that she says. She says, I thought it was going to be a 6-5 vote. She, as soon as you leave, she says to Olivia, "I told you we were good. I told you we were good." She's very aggressive and in your face. She's saying, "Well, why is this such a big deal?" She's almost like making a bigger deal out of it than anybody else. How obvious is it in that situation when somebody is so pissed and so in your face that it was them?
Yeah,
Or am I
think-
crazy?
No, I think it's really obvious. If it was me throwing that rogue vote, you understand people are going to be mad. The best thing is probably own up to it. Don't say a lot about it and move on, right? But making it a bigger deal is going to make it a bigger deal.
Yeah, I don't understand Veronica's. Maybe it's just like a lack of game experience. The fact that she is kind of she's wanting to be a huge comp threat, show everybody that she's such a competitor, and wanting to stir the pot. I almost feel like maybe she could have got away with it, and maybe you can give me your thoughts. If you just say like, "No, it wasn't me," and then like don't mention it at all. There were some of the people. Ryan thought that it could have been Kayla. There was Kayla's name being thrown out there. Will mentions Paris's name as well. Why does Veronica not just say, "Nope, wasn't me. I don't know who it was"? Like, would that have been a more logical story?
Yeah, it's one or the other. I think you say, "No, it wasn't me," and end it, or "Hey, it was me," and end it. I mean, anything in between is just going to cause trouble. People, I think, might have Kayla if it was her vote or V. So I might have not helped the situation by saying that. I think that might have something to do with it.
Did your call out in the room before you got evicted, do you think that maybe painted a bigger target on Veronica? You mentioned Hamza, Marin, Veronica, and Will were a type 4. We need to go after them. Did that start sort of the trajectory, do you think, of Veronica being a little bit of a bigger target?
Yeah, I think absolutely. If it wasn't for that speech, then people wouldn't be looking into those 4. So someone like an Erica winning HOH, it makes a lot of sense kind of where her noms ended up being with Marin and Veronica on the block.
Let's talk about Erica being head of household. She talks about she finally wants to get her hands dirty. So you think it's a good move at this stage of the game for Erica, who's already won a veto, to go out there and win a head of household at this point?
If I'm Erica, she's not really a big target right now, but I don't see a problem with winning the HOH. Winning the veto as well, I mean, that's a different story. I think she knows that, even winning the veto probably isn't in her best interest. But yeah, I mean, if you want to win HOH, if you're Erica right now, go for it.
Is Marin really as chill as he seems on the show? Is he really just kind of like this carefree, like, hey man, whatever happens, it's all good? Like, I actually think that Marin is the ultimate person to put on the block, whether you're Erica or whether you're anybody. Is that the Marin that you saw in the house? Somebody who just like really doesn't care and has nothing but love for anyone?
Yeah, I mean, he's super lax. Doesn't do much on a daily basis. I'm sure he's probably loyal to the people he's loyal to. But so yeah, absolutely, he's so chill. I would put him on the block, and you wouldn't get much backlash.
The opposite side of that is we hear Maddie really resisting wanting to get put up on the block. She's not openly just like begging and saying no, 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 but she's basically saying that inside. For me, I could see a lot of panic in her voice, the way that she was talking about it. She also talks about how vengeful she would be if she gets put up on the block. With all of that being said, was it a smart move for Erica to go after the power of veto and win it?
I wasn't really sure where Erica and Maddie stood, so that was a bit surprising that Maddie ended up on the block. I'm not sure why Maddie was campaigning so hard not to be put on the block. Going as far as to threaten that, if you put me on the block, I'll come after you. Like, it seems a little too much for that stage. But yeah, I mean, if you're Erica and your ultimate target was Veronica in the end, I guess you could win it. But people know she's a big comp threat now, so it probably wasn't her best move.
Do you think that it's a good thing, the fact that there were so many people in her ear? We see Allie and Olivia in her ear saying, you know what, if I was you, I'd do a backdoor thing. We see Ryan planting seeds. I don't know how much influence Ryan has personally in the game. He just seems to be off on his own. But we see a lot of people in there trying to influence Erica to use the veto. Is that a good thing that Erica can use as a tool and be like, yo, everybody was in my ear, I don't know what to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's solid reasoning. You can't really argue with that if the whole house is telling you something, right? I think that up until that point, Erica didn't really have, a formed alliance. So, I mean, the more people in her ear, the better for herself moving forward.
So that being said, Erica decides she wants to throw the veto. She has too many competitions under her belt. And what does she do? She wins the veto in a competition that I watched literally like about a half an hour ago. It's a perfectly throwable power of veto. Maybe not at the second stage because it was two components to it. Why does she even try to win it? She was playing it up like, oh, I'm so sick, I'm puking over here. Like, is it that hard to just like sit there and not do anything?
You know what? I think she could have easily thrown it, but her, competitive side just took over. And, once you started a challenge, I guess, wanted to see it through, and that's what she did. So I think she could have thrown it if she really wanted to.
That being said, obviously there was a lot of people in her ear, a lot of people telling her to use the veto. One of the people we saw that was really prominent on the show tonight, people that have kind of slipped through the cracks, but were really, really present on the episode today, is the duo of Allie and Olivia, really pushing hard to get Veronica up on the blocks, and they were sort of in every room. Did you, when you were in the house, ever see Allie and Olivia as big threats, or the fact that they were together? Because it seems like invisible to the rest of the house that they're a dangerous pair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my pitches was it was apparent that Allie and Liv were a strong duo. They slept in the same bed. They talk a lot. And so, it was apparent they're a duo, but this is the first time we've seen them actually put in some work to get a result. So I think that's the difference.
Yeah, and at the same time, they're was it just that like they weren't threatened by them competitively, or why are more people looking at Derek and Kayla or Hamza and some of these other people as threats and not really as Allie and Olivia?
Right. I think because they have, been under the radar this whole time, they are not the obvious pair to put up, a Dela or, a Will, Hamza, Marin, something like that are the more obvious threats. But that doesn't mean that Allie and Liv can't put in work, and we've seen that happen today already. So.
Are Allie and Olivia, in your eyes, the people that are in the perfect spot? Because I was looking at sort of the breakdown of the alliances right now. We've got Allie and Olivia are obviously super tight. They've formed a 6-person thing with Johnny, with Paris, with Will, and Erica. Allie and Olivia seem really tight with Erica. They seem really tight with Will. I don't see anybody really super threatened by them. Are they the duo that is going to be the force to be reckoned with simply because nobody's really like looking at them right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll be targets until 4 or 5 weeks down the road. I think they're definitely in the best spot in the house now, and kudos to them. I mean, they've built some solid relationships and they're in there pretty tight. So
yeah, one of the other people that seems to have integrated himself very well within the house, and I want to get your take on his game. Johnny, somebody who came out straight out of the gate, won the first HOH, won the first veto. He's somebody who I originally thought was going to be a too hard, too fast person, but he seems to have been able to integrate himself pretty decently within the group right now. How do you see his position in the house right now, and how far can he go?
So I chose Johnny as the winner of the season upon my exit, and I think that he's still definitely up in the running there. I still think people in the house think an Erica Johnny are somewhat of a duo for whatever reason. So I can see those two being put up on the block beside each other at some point, but there's no doubt that Johnny has some solid relationships in the house and can compete pretty well. So he's going to be good for the time being, I think, as well.
I want to talk some more about Johnny because there's some live feed stuff as well that I want to get to with you. There was a lot of really fun. Actually, to be perfectly honest, I don't normally watch the live feeds, but the live feed has been like absolutely lit the last couple of days. Personally, it's been more interesting to me than the actual edited show, unless you're into like watching people play Hasbro games and stuff. Are you a big fan of? Are you a big fan of Catchphrase?
Hey, I wasn't in the Catchphrase one, but I love Catchphrase.
What was your game?
I was only in the Twister one, actually. Yeah.
How disappointed were you that you lost that one? Is that when your game fell apart?
Yeah, it could have been the beginning.
Could have been the Twister.
Might have found the spot.
Might have found the spot. I think we've pinpointed the moment. Hamza just looked at you and was like, "Man, this guy can't do these random things like here. So how the hell am I supposed to align with this guy moving forward?" Let's get to the live feed portion, though. So, spoiler alert to anybody who hasn't seen some of the live feed stuff. We're gonna talk about live feeds, and one of the people that has been the most active on live feeds is the person that was put up on the block for eviction, and that is Veronica. Veronica has gone all world out with her emotions. First off, from your perspective right now, knowing that it's Veronica versus Marin up on the block, what is Veronica's best pitch to stay in the house over Marin? Does she have one?
If you're Veronica, you gotta say we gotta break down the Hamza clan here and take out Marin. It's the safest for everyone, and try to play on your relationships, saying that you'll never be a target. But I mean, up until this point, especially with that house speech and stuff, it's really not looking good. So I'm not sure who her true connections are in the house.
One of the people that was really resistant that I saw on the live feeds to Veronica going up on the block was Johnny. Is Veronica leaving a really bad blow for Johnny's game, or is he still going to be okay?
I think he's still going to be okay. I mean, obviously, him and V have some sort of connection there that he does feel bad she's on the block, but I don't think he should be too upset about it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's one of those situations personally where you just, I say this a lot of times, and we saw Kayla kind of pitching this to Derek as well, is that sometimes you just need to cut your losses and realize that, like, hey, you kind of, and William touched upon this when I talked to him on Sunday, is you protect your number ones, but if they're like maybe your number threes or number fours, maybe you can like cut your losses with them. Is that how you saw the game? Is like protect the people that you think are there and have your back no matter what, but if it's somebody a little further down in your food chain, you can sacrifice them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there comes a risk analysis as to how far down the line you want to go, because it becomes more risky the farther you go down your personal line of connections, right? So you got to find that line that works best for you. I would try to protect a couple 2 to 3 people, I would think, for myself, but apparently I'm a really loyal guy, so I'm not sure what the number is.
Who are the 2 to 3 people that you would have protected and stayed with had you stayed in week 3?
Derek and Paris for sure, and then I'm not sure if I would vouch that hard for Kayla or not, but Derek and Paris for sure.
What do you feel about Paris's game right now? We've seen her getting all the Netta comparisons online about laying low, about having so many great relationships. We did see, though, on the episode the other day that she does sort of get into a bit of a heated exchange with Will about the rogue vote, and she seems very emotional and adamant. Was Paris that emotional in the house, and that was just the first moment we saw on the edited show?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's a very emotional girl. You know, her game has been a bit messy, maybe just because she is so animated and will tell you exactly how she's feeling at the current state. So I think she needs to find someone to rein her in a bit, because if she keeps going back and forth, talking to different sides of the house, you know, she might get caught.
And I think it's kind of getting to that point with her. When Veronica is put up on the block, we see her on the live feeds campaigning very hard to try and keep Veronica, but then she goes to some of the other people like the Allies and Olivia's and is like, you know what, I think Veronica has to go. Is that something that's going to come back and bite her, the fact that she's saying too many things to different people, and they can easily, all they really got to do is come together and talk, and then like Paris is going to get blown up?
Yeah, exactly. You know, people on Twitter were saying that the Paris exposed party. I don't think it ever quite got there, but you have to understand, you do have to tread lightly if you're going to take that position in the game. So it definitely could come back and bite her. I'm not quite sure yet.
Let's get to, we briefly touched on it, and we cannot get through this episode without talking about this, and that is the insanity that happened when Veronica calls a house meeting. You were present for the first house meeting that Veronica called, where she basically, she had to get something off her chest. It was the most important thing in the world. How cringeworthy was it when you, going back to the house meeting she had in week 2, how cringeworthy was it for you sitting down knowing how in-your-face and aggressive Veronica can be?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it was me, Derek, Erica, and V in the hot tub. And then me and Erica started getting so fired up, trying to hype up V to do this big house meeting, have your big blow-up TV moment. And, you know, it didn't take long for Veronica to take the bait. So the next day when she was calling out Ryan, I mean, it was really a lackluster performance. So it really wasn't worth her time to do the meeting. It just looked bad on her. So definitely, I don't think she should have called another house meeting if it didn't work the first time.
So she seems like, I didn't know this, that you guys were kind of the ones that riled her up because and told her to do this, because Hamza was the person who was sort of the catalyst to call this most recent one. Did you guys, or did the people make a mistake during that HOH competition in week 2 when they said Paris is the one that could be the most easily manipulated? Because what I'm seeing on the live feeds and what you just said, it seems like Veronica is the easiest one to just be like, hey, go run your head into a wall and she'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, Veronica likes to shake things up, and she likes to be the catalyst for doing so. So when you're talking about a public situation where we need one person to do this, then Veronica's absolutely your girl.
I want to break down some of the things that Veronica said during her epic house meeting, and if nothing else, if she's not going to be remembered as a game player at all, she will be remembered just for her outbursts and how in your face she got while she was in there. She first off, every second or third word I think was an F-bomb. So I think she should earn a Guinness World Record for the amount of F-bombs that she did. I'm actually kind of shocked because when you're in there, Big Brother kind of warns you if you're going too heavy on the curse words. They're okay with it every once in a while, but they will call you out. Were you ever called out for cursing too much?
I wasn't personally, but the house was all at once. But, you know, desperate times will turn you into a hyped up beast, and you just want to say what you can, and, you know, some swear words usually take part in the speech, so I understand where she's coming from.
Well, here's some of the things that she says. I couldn't touch on absolutely everything because it would take up the entire time of this podcast, but there's a lot of people being fake in the house. People telling me things that I want to hear. You're telling me one thing, and then you're going off, and then you're telling somebody else. Don't twist my words. We're in fucking Big Brother right now. Draw the fucking line and take a chance on me. and then she goes on again and is overselling the rogue vote. She goes back to the rogue vote, which was maybe like a day or two afterwards, saying like, oh, you know what? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, but you know what? It could have been Ryan. It could have been Liv. You know, maybe it was Kayla. Like, where is this just a lack of experience? The fact that she is now on the block, she needs some of these people's votes. So how beneficial is it for her to just say, you know what, it could have been you, and you? Isn't that just like more ammunition for other people to be like, all right, now there's no doubt we're voting you out?
Bringing up the rogue vote again could have been the worst thing she said, and especially when you're calling out your fellow house guest in front of everyone. So yeah, that couldn't have been a worse move for her, I don't think.
Erica is not trying to be, this is another thing, Erica is not trying to be a piece of shit in the game, except by putting me up on the block. Let's stop playing summer camp. And then she goes off and she actually, she made a valid argument, I think, in saying, I'm a shield for people, or people were talking around the house about, like, we can use her as a shield, which is a legitimate strategy, I feel like, especially when you're somebody who is sort of seen as a physical threat. But then she goes on and says, like, don't tell people that I am a don't tell people that I am a shield. I didn't say that I was a shield. I said you could use me as a shield, but I am not gonna be a shield. Like, she's just so messy. Is this just like a lack of game experience for her? The fact that she came in knowing very little about the game, that she's going on rants like this?
Yeah, I think what it is at the end of the day, she's just more emotional than logical, and she likes spewing things. It's just not the most logical things at that time. So, you know, you gotta pick a stance and stick to it, and she's a lot of back and forth on those issues like that shield thing.
Yeah. There's so many things that we can say about Veronica's game. Is there any? I'm trying to think myself as a game player if there's any hope for her at all after this. Is there a pitch maybe that she can say? I don't know, like, look, I'm a can she even say that she's a shield or a big threat or a target anymore? Or can she say maybe that she doesn't have a chance to win at this early stage? Is there any angle for Veronica to get her out of the mess that she's dug for herself?
Yeah, I would just try to find a couple people she thinks she has a shot with and say I'm the shield, and that's really, I don't think there's a way out of this for her. Side note, are you a little blurry on your side, Joel? You're a little blurry on mine.
Okay, how about
over the past bit? So hopefully it went.
Okay. Right now it's sounding a little bit better.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure there's a way out for V at this point.
Yeah, I think the only potential thing, and I want to get your theory on this. There's a double eviction coming up tomorrow. Double evictions are always sort of like the worst possible times for the comp people. We quite often see some of the big players go out at this stage of the game. Is there a case for Veronica? Because there have been some people in the house that have been talking about, hey, there's a double eviction coming up. So it has been talked about by people in the house, so they're obviously anticipating it correctly. Is there a case for Veronica to maybe go to some of the people that have won comps, like Erica, who's obviously very nervous going into a double eviction, and Johnny as well, who's won an HOH and a veto, Hamza as well? Is there a case that she can make to be like, look, if I stay and there's a double coming up, which we're all assuming, then I'm going to be the most obvious one to be put up, and that could keep people like Erica, Hamza, and you guys safe. Is that something that people might buy into?
Hey, why not? I mean, sounds like a great pitch to me. That might be your best shot, because I think that the majority of the house does think there's a double this Thursday.
And who do you think, in your opinion, assuming that Veronica is the one that goes home, which seems all but likely at this point, Veronica goes home tomorrow, who is the most vulnerable in the double eviction to get taken out second?
You know what? That's a tough. Like, it's so tough predicting with this cast. I have no idea what's gonna happen. I think someone like a Ryan or Marin, could easily go in the double. Someone winning it and just being, too frantic to make a big move and kind of, deciding against it to take an easy target, I think is a good possibility.
Is
Um,
is Ryan a smart move to I've heard Ryan's name floated around a lot. Is Ryan a smart move to take out, knowing that, in my opinion, he seems just kind of like dead weight in there right now, who has absolutely no connections and nobody really like takes anything that he says for face value. So what would be the reasoning to get rid of Ryan in a double?
Yeah, I don't agree it is the best move, but I see it being a likely one just because it is a safe move.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about drawing lines in the sand within the span of a couple hours, it just doesn't really happen, especially when so much of the alliances and things in the house right now are so in flux. So that's the only reasoning. Will it happen? I don't know.
Is Erica right to be really afraid about a double eviction coming up and the fact that she has won a few comps? Is she in any trouble to go home in a double?
I think that now she's part of the 5C or 6C alliance or whatever. I think she's pretty solid there. So hopefully not, but if I was Erica, for sure I'd be worried. I mean, double eviction and not being able to compete is the scariest thought.
Yeah, for sure. What about the showmances? I've heard a lot of people saying they're going to go after Derek and Kayla, the two sort of biggest showmans that is sort of common knowledge to everybody else in the house. How in trouble do you think they are if either of them doesn't win the HOH in a double?
I think they're a very likely target at this point because they aren't part of that 6-person thing that we see going. And, I mean, they are an obvious pair to put on the block. You wouldn't make any two sides of the house mad if you put, those two up side by side. So,
Oh, are you still there, Jesse?
yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah, I
Okay.
got you now.
Yeah, okay, good. We're cutting in and out there. Who goes home in a double eviction where Derek and Kayla are up on the block? Because I was kind of racking my brain. Initially, I was like, well, Derek's the bigger guy. He's the obvious one. But Kayla seems to be doing a really nice job behind the scenes. Who's the smarter person to take out if it's between Derek and Kayla?
The better game player, hands down, is Kayla. She is a secret savage, and she's really good at being fake to people. And right now, it's working in her favor. So if the people understand that, they would take out Kayla. But I think that she has better relationships in the house, and that the easier target would be Derek. I think Derek would go home.
If one of those two are taken out, we've seen time and time again that the person that sort of stays in a showmance or a big alliance can make it all the way to the end. Whoever leaves first from Derek and Kayla, does that person have a really good shot of getting deep into the game and potentially to the end simply because they're not sort of joined at the hip by somebody else?
I think if Kayla stays, she has a really good shot at getting to the end. Derek stays, he needs to work on some relationships pretty badly, or else he could be taken out in another couple weeks, I think.
What about Will? He's somebody that has been sort of he seems really tight with Hamza. We saw Hamza talking about the Fives Company thing. First off, he blew it up to everybody else that he was in this alliance called Fives Company. Where do you see Will's position right now, and is he in any potential danger given his spot in the house in a double eviction?
I think he could potentially be in some danger, especially if V goes home. That's kind of his number one or was. I'd like to see Will head out the door, but I mean, he might have some decent relationships to stay a couple more weeks.
Who does in a very unlikely situation, and I really think this is highly unlikely, but you expect the unexpected in Big Brother. Let's say Ryan wins another competition, basically like default, like he did in week number 2. Who does Ryan go after, and is there any way for Ryan to ingratiate himself back into the house and get alliances?
You know, if you're Ryan, who do you put up? You put up, you know, a Maddie Paris or something like that. You know, some people that aren't aligned with you, you know, he has closer ties to a Marin Hamza and doesn't want to make a showmance a big target. So, yeah, it'd be like a Maddie Paris and then try to get some ins with a couple people. I don't know.
Looking at everybody's position right now in the house, who do you have your money on to go all the way and win this thing? Is it Johnny?
Yeah, I think it's Johnny. I think Ali is a good shot. Erica, if she can tread lightly. There's a couple front runners right now, I think.
Was there as many, what I was kind of looking at, and I've been kind of fascinated about this season, is the fact that there haven't been too many, besides, with the exception of Derek and Kayla, at least what we're seeing on the TV show is we're not seeing a lot of huge pairs breaking off, which is kind of rare, I feel like, in Big Brother US or Big Brother Canada. We saw last year Jamaica, we saw Dylan and Emily, we saw the French Connection. We usually see lots of people pairing off, but this season, there's people who kind of have loose connections, but there seems to be everybody kind of, everybody is playing their own game, and it seems like it's not huge common knowledge with everybody besides Derek and Kayla being a pair. Was it common knowledge to everybody else in there when you were in there about like some of the other pairs, Hamza really tight with Marin, or you and Paris, Olivia, and Ali, were those common knowledge things? Because they're not really showing them too much on the episode, which I think is like fascinating to watch.
Mm-hmm. You know, it was frustrating off the start that there wasn't more alliances being made. People were really hesitant to get in, you know, a named alliance or anything like that. It seemed like people were a little hesitant to play the game off the start. So the pairs weren't as obvious back then as they are now. And I think there are a couple, but it doesn't seem to be a big deal just because there are so many people in the middle acting as independents at this time. Even if there are some loose alliances, everyone's out for themselves. So it's really interesting to see that unfold this season, I think.
Who do you think has the worst chance? Is there anybody from this cast that you think could be like a GOAT that will likely not get too many jury votes? Because I feel like we're getting really close to, maybe in the double, or else next week we're probably getting to the jury stage where the game kind of shifts a little bit. Is there anybody out of the remaining cast members that you think could turn into an ultimate GOAT who can be taken to the end and lose?
So you're talking, I can bring someone along and...
Yeah, basically like somebody as a quote unquote GOAT. Is there a quote unquote GOAT this season who you can look at and be like, well, this person really has no resume whatsoever, so sitting with them at Final 2 is a guaranteed win. Is there anybody on that list that is like a no shot at winning almost?
Yeah, I think anyone that hasn't done too much, like a Maddie, Marin, you know, maybe Ryan, but he's a good talker, so I'd be weary. Who else do we got? Maybe an Ali. But yeah, like a Maddie, Marin, anyone like that for sure.
I agree with you 100%. I can't, whenever I think of Marin, I think of like how incredibly chill and nice he is all the time, and I wonder if he's like that in real life. Like I was saying this just before going on, that like Marin seems like the type of guy who you could tell him the worst news in the world. You can be like, hey man, guess what? I just ran over your dog, and he'd be like, cool man, I appreciate you telling me that. Props, homie. Like this, oh my god, he's funny. I'm really looking forward to meeting him. But I do think that Marin is somebody who is going to be a pawn a lot of times, just simply because he's been so just like, it's cool, man. If you're in there, do you put up Marin lots as a pawn? Is Marin the ultimate pawn?
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty laissez-faire, right? I mean, no one's going to want to send him home. He doesn't have too many strong relationships. So if you have a target, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. So who do you said Johnny is your winner pick. Is that who you want to win as well?
I mean, I would want Derek to win, but there's just no chance in hell he does it. You know, Derek's the biggest beauty in the entire show for sure, hands down.
That's true. He was pretty close on that numbers thing, though, wasn't he? He was only off by like 300 or so. So it was,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
over by double, whatever.
yeah, over by double, not big of a deal. Whatever. Water off a duck's back. Okay, well, that is gonna wrap things up for us over here. Jesse, thank you so much for being on and joining me for this. For people who want to find out what is going on with Jesse Larson in your life, how can people do so?
Right now, Twitter's the biggest one, Jesse BBCan6. I'm getting an Instagram soon. Right now, it's all Twitter.
Cool. And if you guys want to follow my show, you can like and subscribe at Random Thoughts on my YouTube channel, Joel LaFave. Were you just doing the finger gun sign? Did I just?
Yeah, do it, people, do it.
Oh, that's my thing. I didn't. That was my thing in the show. I was like, oh, thanks for the shout out, bro. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Joel B. You can follow me on Twitter at JoelBBCan, JoelBBCan4, and I am lucky enough that next time around, I don't know exactly when it's going to be just yet, but I have gotten clearance from Big Brother to talk with either Veronica or Marin. I'm thinking most likely Veronica, so I will have Veronica or Marin on a podcast in the near future, probably Veronica, and whoever else goes out in the double, I will have an exit interview with them as well, so you guys can stay tuned for that and more exciting podcasts in the future as we continue to break down Big Brother Canada Season 6. Thank you so much for joining, guys, and we will talk to you guys again soon. Toodles!